Welcome into Sports Memo's betting podcast for July 2nd. It's Tuesday. That means CFL. Every game on the board with Andrew McGinnis. McGinnis, welcome to the podcast. How you feeling?
Hey, Drew. I'm feeling great. It's a good day. It's a good day to talk CFL, and looking forward to week 4. Things are going pretty good so far through the first 3 weeks, and looking forward to keeping rolling here. How are you? How was your birthday weekend?
It was good, man. It was a lot of fun. Got more winners than losers, so that's always nice. Hit my first CFL winner. By myself, I've been following your plays as well, but and it turns out you jumped on it as well with the Saskatchewan Roughriders laying double digits as an 0-2 team. Love that profile, and you were on it too, huh, McGinnis?
I was, and like you said, it's a very interesting side there because both teams coming in pretty rough shape with those 0-2 records, but Toronto is a lot more of a rough team. I mean. It starts with the quarterback position. I mean, James Franklin, I don't think he belongs in that number 1 spot. We'll talk about that down the road here as we look at them playing BC, but also a great job from Saskatchewan. I mean, we got a guy in Fajardi that's going off. I mean, he's been amazing. He's had back-to-back great performances. He stepped up as Zach Collaros went down with that injury in week 1, and he's looked amazing. So a great turnaround for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and we'll look to see them try and keep that going for them moving forward.
Yeah, good stuff, McGinnis. And guys, we're talking with Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks on Twitter. He's 9-0, 100%, plus 32% return on investment through the first couple weeks here of the CFL. Yeah, you heard that right. 9-0 for the clients. So McGinnis, how you feel? You're probably feeling pretty good, man, as you should. And we did just discount the CFL full season was $7.99 full price. And for the next 24 hours, McGinnis, we're breaking it down to just $2.99. So for under $300, you can get his full CFL season. We'll keep that active for the next 24, 48 hours here on sportsmemo.com. Check out his handicapper page at sportsmemo.com. Just $2.99, no coupon code needed for the rest of the season. So let's start breaking this down. We got 4 games, Thursday, Friday, and 2 on Saturday, the doubleheader on Saturday. I believe this is like the normal CFL weekend card. Is that correct, McGinnis?
We're finally settling into it, Drew. This is usually what we'll end up seeing on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and that's good. It's good. I like it. You get one game, and then the doubleheader on Saturday. It's good stuff. And we got the Hamilton Tiger Cats heading on the road to face the Montreal Alouettes. Looks like 56.5 being the total. Hamilton laying doubles here, 12.5 on the road. Is a little too pricey, or you think the market's got it right? Hamilton should dominate.
I think that this line isn't even where it should be at all. We're coming off that week 3 game. These two teams face each other. They're going back to back, kind of having a little bit of a home and home series here. And we saw Hamilton 41-10, complete dominant performance once again. This team, Drew, as much as they're having an easy schedule, so to speak, to start this season off, they are proving themselves to be a dangerous team in this league. Jeremiah Masoli on a week-to-week basis has looked so sharp. Once again, he passed 80%, 25 or 31, 417 yards. Just an outstanding job there. Also, I gotta mention a guy, Sean Erlington Thomas, because we really questioned the running back capability of this Hamilton team. We know how strong the receivers are, but he's come in, averaged around 5 yards per carry. He got 47 yards. He's someone that's consistently stepped up and been there on a week-to-week basis. And we also have to mention a guy like Brandon Banks. He had 1 carry for 30 yards and receiving 7 receptions, 152 yards. Just amazing. This is a guy that's consistently coming out there and making a difference for his team. It's just tough to see with this Montreal Alouettes team where they can't get a stop to save their lives. And that's what's really tough for those bottom feeder teams like Montreal, like Toronto. It's not even as much their offense. I understand, look at the score from last week and you see they only put up 10 points. But they just can't get a stop. And it makes it very difficult on the opposing team's quarterback. Vernon Adams Jr. was barely even out there. And when he was out there, he didn't look very strong. And then a guy like Matt Schultz comes in and, passes 6 for 8, 75%. You got to wonder now if there's going to be another QB controversy because, as we know, with Antonio Pipkin out in Montreal, they're already down to their QB2. And, with their QB2 not looking very good now, will they go to their QB3? Who knows? But More of the story for me here in this one, Drew, I think this line is too small. 12 points, 12 and a half points is still not enough for me to have any sort of lean with the Montreal Alouettes. I don't agree with it. And I think it really proved to it, like you and I were talking about just a few moments ago, about that large point spread with the Saskatchewan Roughriders game where, looking at these teams and we break down this schedule here, there's no need to be afraid of these big numbers until we start seeing some better defensive and offensive performances from the Montreal Alouettes. So like I said, also, Drew, I want to look at that team total for Hamilton. They've been consistently covering it. They've been going over, and they're putting up points consistently. We're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the Hamilton Tiger Cats at the minus 12.5 number here. And I am going to have a slight lean to the over because I do expect a little bit better of an offensive performance. I think Montreal can do better than 10 points. But when it comes down to it, Hamilton should take care of this one easily here. And again, Drew, I mentioned an easier start to the season for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but they're taking full advantage of it. We'll take Hamilton on the points.
You bring up a couple names there, man. Brandon Banks. He's only like 150, 160 pounds, 5'7", isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. He's not that big of a guy, but he makes a difference.
I remember him at Kansas State. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now. He was a wild man out there, man. He was quicker than everybody out there. I thought he had a shot in the NFL as well, maybe with the Washington Redskins. But that's cool. He finds himself in the CFL. That's why I love this sport, man. Guys like that. Making a professional career out of it. So like in Hamilton here, minus 12.5. That's the Thursday night game, Hamilton at Montreal. Friday night's game, July 5th, is Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the Ottawa Red Blacks. Looks like the Red Blacks minus 3.5. There is a 4 out there at Heritage. 54.5 being the total, McGinnis. How would you look to bet this one?
Well, Drew, first of all, I want to start by just kind of rewinding back to last week and looking at that game where you and I spoke about the Edmonton Eskimos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And, Winnipeg was 4.5, 5.5 favorites. And I mentioned that was a trap game. I mentioned that, I think a lot of people were on Edmonton. A lot of people liked the Blue Bombers, the Eskimos. But this is a strong Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. This is going to be a team that's going to be at the top of the league when things are all said and done at the end of the season. And, that Eskimos team had a great start to the year for sure, but they were no match for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers when it came down to it. And it's just simply because they're getting the job done on both the offensive side of the football and the defensive side. And, now we look at this matchup here against the Ottawa Red Blacks, and they're coming off a bye. And usually for me, coming off a bye, getting the rest, the extra preparation time is a great thing. But I think the Ottawa Red Blacks here, it's a perfect example of an overachieving Eastern Conference team. And we've got a Winnipeg team coming in here. And the number that we're getting, this is probably the most my mind has been blown since the season has started kind of line here with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, with the points, plus 3.5, plus 4. They shouldn't be getting that whatsoever. With the start we've seen from the Red Blacks, it's been impressive, but I have not seen a defensive performance out of them yet that I've really been impressed with. However, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they've been consistently getting those stops in the red zone. They're getting 2 and outs, and they're getting the job done. Then we got a guy like Matt Nichols putting up some great numbers. I mean, this guy makes, putting up 250 yards look easy. We got a guy like Nick Dembski carrying this team offensively. But one guy I have to mention, Lucky Whitehead, a guy that took over that last game. And, this is a guy here that you don't really hear people talk about and hype up enough. But, 7 receptions, 155 yards for 2 touchdowns. He took over, and he absolutely made a name for himself. And I've been mentioning him pretty much for the entire season so far. Andrew Harris is that guy. He is the best running back in the CFL. I'll be saying this on a week-to-week basis until he proves me different, and he will come out there and put up a huge performance against the Red Blacks defense. Drew, when I started this season off with you, I said the Red Blacks would have a strong defense. I said they were going to be, an under team. They were going to be that team that won't put up too many points, but they're going to, get those key stops when they need to and keep the score low. That's not what I've seen so far. And because of that, I'm going to look ahead with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers plus 3.5 here. I think that is definitely the strong play. I think they'll cover the number, if not win outright. But I also want to go ahead and lay the under 54.5. I do think that's too many points, and I think Ottawa has to clean things up defensively. That's most likely what they worked on during their bye week. And, Winnipeg's defense looked strong down the stretch last week. So I really like Winnipeg here in this spot. They're a strong team, and it's one of those spots here that we're going to notice throughout the season, Drew, where an Eastern Division team is really excelling, and then a Western team that's just doing okay comes into town, and all of a sudden the Eastern team is laying the points. But as we all know, the West is way stronger than the East, and we're going to find that out this weekend.
McGinnis, man, liking Winnipeg here as the underdog on the road, looking towards the Blue Bombers. You bring up Lucky Whitehead, man. That is another guy, undersized. He had a look in the NFL as well, I believe, with the Jets, and he played college. Man, he tore up the small conference college game. He played at FAU, McGinnis, and he absolutely tore it up. So, man, I just love hearing about the CFL, watching the CFL, betting it, and obviously it's beatable, man. 9-0, 100%. We're talking with Andrew McGinnis. You can jump on his service here, his CFL service, for only $2.99 for the rest of the season. So I highly recommend that at sportsmemo.com. 9-0, 100% on the season. McGinnis, we just had Canada Day, huh? Up there north of the border. Did you enjoy? You stayed safe and enjoyed the weekend?
I stayed safe. Yeah, it was a blast. I honestly did most of my celebrating on Sunday, but definitely got out to a little bit of a concert yesterday, got some fireworks in, and just celebrate the great country we live in. And I'm sure you'll do the same thing come the 4th of July. It's just it's a great time for all of us to really realize how blessed we are, how appreciative we should be for the free country we live in, and just celebrate rocking our red and white all weekend long. It was a great time.
And so Canada Day is, I guess, you would compare it to 4th of July. They're kind of on the same level there.
I wouldn't say we go as hard as you guys. I'll be honest about that, but it's comparable. It's pretty much the same thing. Yes.
Okay.
I've seen some crazy videos, Drew, of some 4th of July celebrations, and we party for Canada Day, but I don't think we've gotten quite on the States level yet.
What are you exactly celebrating for Canada Day?
It's pretty much just the country, like when we were formed as one, and we were when we were listed as all provinces together being one country, it's Canada. So it's one of those things where we all come together and try and remember and learn about the history and educate ourselves. But mostly it's kind of like how we have you guys have Veterans Day and we have like Remembrance Day. It's pretty much it's the same meaning, just a different kind of name and different date.
Okay, no, it makes sense. Yeah,
if that makes any sense, that might have been a weird comparison, but it's comparable is what I was trying to say.
Okay, all right, good stuff. No, good neighbors to the north. I know a lot of Canadians listening to the podcast, especially this podcast, the CFL Every Game on the Board podcast, every Tuesday going forward on the podcast until college football, NFL starts up. But happy Canada Day out there to all the listeners, and happy 4th of July coming up on Thursday here, and we'll have the Hamilton-Montreal game that night for the 4th of July. So check out sportsmemo.com and see all of McGinnis's picks here. And I recommend the $2.99 rest of the season. That's probably the best deal you can get at sportsmemo.com right now. But McGinnis, let's move down the card here. We got the Saturday games, 7 p.m. Eastern kick here. British Columbia at Toronto Argonauts here. 57 being the total. -6.5 at Bookmaker. Seeing -6.5 at BetOnline. Seeing 7 at other shops. So make sure to shop around whichever side you're looking to get at this weekend, especially now. We're talking, about 3 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So these lines may shift depending when you're listening to the podcast. But we got the BC Lions and McGinnis. I'm seeing BC 0-3, and they're laying a touchdown. This was the kind of the same spot I bet my first CFL bet just last night, as far as on Saskatchewan being 0-2, laying double digits. We're getting an 0-3 team on the road laying 6.5 or 7. Just from a glimpse view, I know you know the CFL a lot more than me. That's the odds makers, the betting market telling us something, man. That's saying, this 0-3 team laying points on the road against the Toronto Argonauts team that has yet to be competitive this season. I think BC's the side here, man. What do you think?
I'm happy you feel that way. And, just like we got a winner for you on your birthday last week, I'm hoping to get a winner for myself on my birthday here, July 6th, this coming Saturday. You look at this spot here. I'm not sure if you were able to check out the scores or see the highlights of this game, but when BC played Calgary, I'm going to list it, Drew, as probably one of the best CFL games I've seen in years. It was an amazing game. I was at my cottage during the weekend, and to be able to see that comeback that Calgary delivered, it's outstanding. I mean, Drew, that game belonged to BC for pretty much 3.5 quarters, and Calgary didn't give up one bit. They kept control. They kept things going, but there was great signs that BC was strong. The BC showed great life. I saw Mike Riley deliver a really pumped up, fired up pregame speech and trying to motivate his team. He pretty much said to his guys, look, we're not here just to play. We're here to win. Whatever motivates you, I don't care what it is. I want you to get motivated right now. And, his team came out strong. I mean, they won that first quarter, Drew, 15-0. This is a BC team where, like you mentioned, with your lean, their record does not reflect how skillful they really are. And, Mike Riley going 36 of 42, 86% passing completion percentage, 354 yards and 2 TDs. That's a great game. That's a great job there. We saw a great job there from Lamar Durant. He was great. He's going to be their key guy. He's going to be the guy they have to rely on. But a guy named Duron Carter, who we all know has had a little bit of issues bouncing around different teams in this league, I think he'll find a home with the Lions. He's a guy that he had 7 receptions, his most so far as a Lion. He's that deep ball threat that Mike Riley needs to have. We got a guy, Brian Burnham, who's usually, Mike Riley's go-to guy. But if Duron Carter can get going and be that consistent deep ball threat and keep, spreading the offense out, as I like to use some basketball analogies, then that's going to be great. Because for right now, it seems, the start of the season, it was all Brian Burnham, all John White. Everything was being forced to those two guys. But if we can kind of spread things out and get numerous touches from all kinds of different receivers, I believe in that game versus Calgary, Drew, Mike Riley's first 5 passes were to 5 different receivers. And to me, when I'm handicapping this Lions team, that's what I want to see. Some people handicap strictly just off stats, but I look at, first of all, the camaraderie of the team, the chemistry, how things are working together, how things are shaping out. And what I want to see from this BC team is things being very spread out, everybody getting touches, and that's really what I saw. This is going to be a very offensive team. I've been disappointed with their defense early on, but when I look at this one here, Toronto has not shown me anything at all, no reason whatsoever as to why I should back them. I mean, anybody backing Toronto at this point is simply just hoping for a miracle turnaround, that they're going to, all of a sudden be a much better team from week to week. And, it's not just their defense either from Toronto. I think a lot of people are bashing their corners and their backs, but I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's their offense. You have to get some consistency. You have to get, just a few short yardage plays at least. And I hate to say it, but James Franklin is not that guy for Toronto. I mean, last year we saw McLeod Bethel Thompson get in the game and do well for this Toronto team, Drew. And so I'm sitting here right now wondering why we haven't really seen him in the game yet, why we haven't really seen him get some action, because it looks to me that, James Franklin will back up maybe 5, 6, 7 steps and end up throwing a toss that's 6 yards, and he's barely even getting anywhere. He's 20 for 28, 71%, but, only threw 220 yards and just couldn't get the job done. I mean, 2 interceptions didn't really help him either. But great job from defense from Saskatchewan, but I just don't trust this Toronto team. I expect them to get a little more points and to up things up a little bit, but again, like I keep saying, don't be scared of these big numbers for all of you out there listening. Sometimes it's good to go ahead and grab the plus, grab the underdog. But in this instance here, Toronto hasn't shown us any reason why we should be backing them. Get it at 6.5 while you can. You can get it at numerous spots, bookmaker, bet online, Heritage, shop around, get that 6.5 and cash a ticket with the BC Lions. This BC team is going to be the hungriest team in the CFL this week 4 because they deserved that win in week 3, and Calgary absolutely ripped it apart from them and took it away from them. So I expect a very, very hungry British Columbia team here in Week 4.
He's Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks on Twitter. 9-0, 100% plus 32% ROI on the year in CFL. Pick up the rest of his CFL full season for just $299 for the next 48 hours at sportsmemo.com. Highly recommended. 9-0. Yes, that's 100% on the season. We got the nightcap Saturday night, July 6th. Calgary Stampeders at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Roughriders laying 3 or 3.5, depending where you're shopping. 51 the total, McGinnis.
Don't you love a doubleheader, Drew? Like I love, the back-to-back games. It's nice to be able to have 2 in a row like that, and it makes for a good Saturday night. And look at this one here, Calgary, Saskatchewan. If you would have told me at the start of the season the Rough Riders would be, minus 3.5 point favorites against this Calgary team, I would have thought you were crazy, Drew. I would have told you I don't know what you're talking about. But now we look at this one and we see Saskatchewan, a very improved team. But the thing is I think this is an inflated line simply based off the performance yesterday, and that's not the way it should be. Just because they pummeled a very poor team in the Argonauts, does that make them that good of a team? And we're going to find that out here in Week 4. But Cody Fajardo, a guy, 24 of 31, 430 yards, Drew, 2 passing touchdowns. This is a guy that's absolutely come in, stepped up, and been that number 2 guy. And that's what you want out of your backup quarterback, to be able to come in and act like a starter right away. I mentioned to you how poorly I felt about Zach Collaros' injury, going down with a concussion, listed out for several weeks. But I can't really think of a better way for a backup quarterback to come in, and put up back-to-back minimal 300-yard passing performances. He's been great for his team. William Powell has been outstanding rushing the ball. He rushed for 77 yards. And just looking at the receiving stats right now in front of me, so many people getting involved. We've got a guy in Moore, 127 yards. Evans, 112 yards. Cannon, 71 yards. Roosevelt, 51 yards. By no means was this team, just kind of marching the field with ease. As poor as Toronto was, they looked great, but I'm not really buying what they're selling as far as, these 3.5 point favorites against Calgary. If anybody watched that game, Calgary against BC, they put together, like I said, Drew, the most impressive comeback I've seen in a long time. Everything that could have gone right for them went right. They made key plays at the right time. And we saw another backup quarterback in Arbuckle come in and make a huge difference, as Bo Levi Mitchell had, I believe, a sore shoulder near the end of the game. And he also wasn't passing too great. Arbuckle came in and led the team to victory. They also got a perfect onside kick and so on and so forth. It was a great game, a great finish. And I just think this Calgary team is kind of being underrated here. And it's really it's hard for me to even believe that I'm saying that, because they're such a great team, defending Grey Cup champions, and going up against a team that still is not really sitting on a great record in Saskatchewan Roughriders, just coming off a great win against a poor team like Toronto. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Calgary Stampeders plus the number, plus 3.5 points. We're also going to go over the total. Saskatchewan's defense hasn't looked as great as I thought it would look all season, besides yesterday against a poor team in Toronto. And same with Calgary. Calgary lost a couple key guys on defense over the offseason, and they've been involved in some shootouts here early on in this season. And, against teams like BC, Ottawa, and I expect that to continue here in week number 4. So we're going to go with Calgary on the points and over the total of 49 to end off week 4.
McGinnis, you bring up Nick Arbuckle. He was a guy I bet on a lot in college. He went to Georgia State. I believe he's the Sun Belt Conference passing leader, even currently. So what do you think of his performance? How's he doing in the CFL so far?
He's outstanding. I mean, the problem is he's on a great team with a great QB1 in front of him. So I haven't gotten the chance to see him play too many times. But if there's a team, that has a backup quarterback come in and to make me feel comfortable about my wager or just, cheering on that team, it would be Nick Arbuckle. I mean, you mentioned he's impressive. And from what I've seen from him so far, he comes in there like he's been, a veteran in this league. And to me, that's a huge compliment to give him. He doesn't really seem like he needs any time to settle in. Right away, he comes in there, he demands the huddle, and he takes care of business. And I love how he's not scared to go for the long ball. He's not scared to control the game, and that's exactly what he did. And for all of you out there that didn't watch that game, I recommend you go out there, check on YouTube, check wherever, and look at the highlights of that game, because Arbuckle and the Stampeders really controlled the last 3-4 minutes of that fourth quarter, and they won the game. And great story there for Arbuckle. He seems to be a great guy, and sounds like he was also a great college player. So happy for him, but he's also behind a great quarterback in Bo Levi Mitchell as well. So hard for him to get some consistent starts as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that you bring up the long ball. I mean, he can throw the deep ball good, and that's something I remember at Georgia State. Sometimes he would just throw it up. He used to have Penny Hart, another wide receiver that made the NFL, or at least a look in the NFL. And their offense was pretty wild. So it's good to see these guys doing well in the CFL as well, making some money as they play. And if you've been betting McGinnis's picks, you've been making some money as well. 9-0, 100% on the season, up over 30% return on investment so far this season. And what, McGinnis, we're only 3 weeks in on the CFL season?
I want to be excited, Drew, but it is a long season, 21 weeks total. And, I want to just keep trying to take care of business on a week-to-week basis. I've been picking my spots and, trying to stay well-researched, well-prepared. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say how excited I was for the good start. Happy for myself and my clients, and hoping for continued success as we move forwards. But only 3 weeks in, so a lot of room for more profit, and a lot of room for learning as well. So looking forward to a great season.
Well, keep grinding, man. Good job so far, and know the clients are happy. And if you want to jump on board, check out sportsmemo.com. You can grab the plays. You can grab a week, a month, whatever you'd like. We have discounted the rest of his full season for the next 48 hours to just $299 at sportsmemo.com. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow talking with Nick Borman, talking a little golf and soccer. Best of luck with your bets.